Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader here. How are all my comic book friends? I haven't made a video or posted a video to my channel in quite a while, and I have more to come. I'm still kind of catching up with everything I got behind on during the holidays. But I've been meaning for a while to do a video about Legend of Wonder Woman, which is a new comic. It just came out in print today. That is Wednesday, when I'm recording this, Wednesday, December 13th. But it's been coming out digitally for the past few months, and I've been reading it with my daughter, and it's kind of delighted us. So I thought I'd mention it. Might help people decide whether to pick it up now that it's in print, or go back and read it digitally if that's to your taste. So there's been 9 chapters so far, which means 3 issues. I'm at least 2 issues ahead of you, and I can tell you that it keeps getting better. My daughter enjoyed the first issue a lot. I think I was kind of on the fence about it. I loved the art. There was a lot of good stuff going on, but there was also a lot more telling rather than showing, if you know what I mean. I think the author had a lot of ground she wanted to cover, and so she kind of crammed it in the first issue. And then it gets more expansive as the issues go on, and the story gets more room to breathe. And this, to me, well, I haven't read the original Wonder Woman from back in the very early 40s. So to me, the origin story that I know best of Wonder Woman is by George Perez. I've read other little bits and pieces of other people's origin stories, but anyway, this is again kind of going back to the beginning. It starts before Diana is born. It's quickly tells the story of the Amazons and Queen Hippolyta, and you can see here the beautiful art, the beautiful color. I should say the writing and the pencils are by Renee DeLiz, and she does an awesome job, and she is aided and abetted. I think we're seeing 2 people working together, one of those great examples of teamwork, because Ray Dillon is her inker, her colorist, and her letterer. And the images and the color just go together perfectly. I mean, they make an awesome combo. And this is worth it alone for the art. So it's taking that same mythological track that George Perez took, but I'd say it's glossing over pretty quickly the part about the relationship with the gods and how the Amazons got started. And after it sort of works its way through that quickly, it gets more to Queen Hippolyta, her desire to have a child. Unlike the Brian Azzarello run, which was also deeply involved with the myth, this goes back to the idea of Diana, Wonder Woman, being born of clay. It has this idea, which I don't recall in the George Perez thing, of a few of a dozen of the women in Themyscira being immortals, but everyone else being mortal. And as an immortal, she couldn't have children, apparently, and that Hippolyta, and that's what she longed for so badly that the gods finally granted her wish of a child. And then we get a lot of Diana's childhood, and in the process of that, we get a lot about what life on Paradise Island on Themyscira is like in this version. And it's not simple. It's a complex world, both emotionally and politically, and along with its back history of mythology that's sort of behind everything. And you can see here how beautifully rendered the world is. You just want to go and live in these pictures. And you can also see that there's many different types of women here. There's not just one type. And they don't, although it's all in this kind of cartoony but pretty kind of style, they're not just a bunch of beautiful women who all look the same. And there is a rich sense of myth here, I kind of like how she doesn't, go into all the details of the myth. It's just there. And we get to experience Diana slowly exploring it, and we get a explanation of why, even though I always have trouble with the name. Hippolyta doesn't want Diana to be a warrior, how she ends up becoming a warrior, which will later, in the classic story where there's a contest, it kind of explains a lot. It covers everything in a very nice way. And at the same time, I don't want to give away too much. I'm trying to do this pretty spoiler-free. But we get all kinds of interesting character work. And if Cammie's watching, this character, Alcippe, I kind of, we never see Cammie on camera. I kind of picture her looking a bit like Alcippe, the tough, beautiful but tough woman. Anyway, so in issue 2, I don't want to give away too much, but everything gets deepened. We get, Diana's connection to all the myth and her training, and eventually we get the appearance of, there's all kinds of emotion going on. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead of myself, or of the pictures I've chosen to take screenshots of. But there's all kinds of emotion here, and I feel like in all the best ways, to me, this is a very feminine version of the Wonder Woman story. She focuses on the human complexities and on the beauty. So you got this wonderful balance, I think, of humanity and humanity in terms of emotion and everything, and mythology in a way that is really appealing. And I'm sure there's a man who could have done this, but it just feels like something that plays to the strengths of certain female writers. And then eventually we get Steve Trevor. And Steve Trevor's always been a huge problem for me. I never liked Steve Trevor. I couldn't relate to Diana having these strong feelings for Steve Trevor. But here, we get a Steve Trevor that is really appealing, and a kind of guy that you could imagine a really strong woman would have a relationship with, would feel protective of, but would respect at the same time. And it really works. It really clicks. So that suddenly a Steve Trevor Wonder Woman relationship is not a huge thorn in my side in liking Wonder Woman. And there may be other people's portrayals of Steve Trevor that I just have missed, because there have been a lot of versions of Wonder Woman, and I've only read some of them. And this picture kind of represents to me how we get the interplay of the gods with the women of Paradise Island. That's easier to say than Themyscira, so I'll just say that. I don't think they call it Paradise Island here. But what is interesting to me is the main gods that are meant. One thing I like about the George Perez version is Wonder Woman's gifts are given to her mostly by the female gods. And here, the gods aren't directly giving her gifts, but the gods who are interfering in the world of the Amazons, at least the 3 main ones that we're seeing, are male. So that's interesting, and I don't know if that'll be played with later, or it's just the way this writer has decided to go. Everything else is very female, and the famous kind of contest that makes Wonder Woman become Wonder Woman and the representative of Amazon Island, I felt was done the best I've ever seen it. And again, the whole Steve Trevor way of things is played right. The nobility of Wonder Woman is just very believable. She's just a very rich character here. She's very young still. And so as issue 3 ends, which is as far as I've read, we're just opening up into a larger story. And at this point, I am just super, super on board. I think that's the last image I captured. So at this point, I'm just really psyched for issue 4. I wish this version could go on forever. compared to what I know of the current Wonder Woman, I stopped reading it after a few issues of the Finches. But this is what I would like to be the main Wonder Woman. I think it's a limited series. I don't know how many issues, maybe 6 or 8. So it'll probably come out, hopefully, in a nice trade afterwards. I'll probably buy that if there's a nice hardcover of this. And meanwhile, I'll just keep reading it digitally with my daughter. Reading digitally right now is the best way to go with me and my daughter reading together. But if any of this appeals to you, it doesn't have that hard edge of the Brian Azzarello. It's so far not a superhero story so much as a story of the Amazons. And we do have a few clues that this is taking place during World War II. But the Amazons have been living outside of time, and they know nothing about man's world. In fact, they thought that maybe man's world had disappeared into war and chaos and no longer existed. So anyway, just rich stuff. Renee DeLiz and her co-creator, whose name I've now forgotten, Ray Dillon, are talents to watch, and hopefully they will do more Wonder Woman, more female-centric heroes, or just more work in comic books that we can access. So I will hopefully be doing another video sometime soon. I did do a hangout video on Animal Man over on Wednesday Serials channel, and we'll be continuing with that if we don't argue too much. And anyway, more to come. Talk to you all later.